So, hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio Reading and for my YouTube channel. And I'm super excited that today we are doing a second, yes, number two, a Neighbours special following the success. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who's watched or listened to part one of my Neighbours special with the amazing Alan Fletcher, Jeff Payne, and Lucinda Cowden. Following on from the success of that and how well it went down with you guys out there. I have done another one. We have another Neighbours special. Part two is here. Like I said, we're about to watch it now. Very exciting. Just to let you know, though, if you would like to hear, because I am hoping to do some more of these as well. So if you would like to watch more of these, feel free to subscribe and do all of that stuff. And you'll be notified when they come available. But yeah, it's time for me to tell you what we have planned for part two. So, like I said, part one went very well. I was very happy with the response and how you guys have taken it. So we've got number two, and I'm very excited that my guests joining me for part two are Ben Hall, who of course plays Ned Willis, and of course Jacinta Stapleton, who plays Amy Greenwood. We obviously talk about all of the great stuff that's going on, the end of the show, what they want for the future. So yeah, without further ado, let me hand over to myself for the interview. I'm super excited to be joined by two fantastic stars from the show, of course, Ben Hall, who plays Ned Willis, and Jacinta Stapleton, who of course plays Amy Greenwood. Thank you to you both for joining me. How are you?
Oh, well, thank you, mate. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Now, obviously, you know, the sad news this year about Neighbours coming to an end, and I wanted to do this to kind of talk about our memories and what we love about the show. I mean, I'll come to you first, Jacinta, but how do you remember the first time you became aware of the show Neighbours? And then how did you first become aware of it and become part of it?
Well, actually, we weren't allowed to watch it when I was a little kid, and when I was, super little. And then, look, when Kylie was on, I was watching a bit, and then I started auditioning for it. Quite young. And I actually got my first role on it when I was 15, and it was just a small role for a couple of episodes, I think. And so then I think, Jan remembered me from then and then offered me Amy Greenwood, maybe, what was that, 6 years later or something. So
I mean, I was going to say, I mean, it was obviously, a great time to be in the show because obviously you had that Ryan Maloney was obviously quite new as Toadie, and you had that kind of the younger group who were just very central to a lot of the storylines. So to be a part of that must have been so much fun.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, it was quite a mental time. I mean, it was huge. It was huge in Australia. It was huge in the UK. I remember going to the UK and getting chased down the street by like mobs and people. It was like that. Not sure if it's going to be like that. It probably will be, won't it? I think there's so many fans that are so upset about the show ending that I think everyone will kind of have that reaction. I'm not sure. What you think?
And I mean, Ben, for you, do you remember the first time you became aware of Neighbours? And then, because obviously you joined as part of the Willis clan, which was quite big at that point. So did you know much about the Willis clan and all that?
I mean, yes. I mean, it's always been... It's because it's always been there. It's one of those things. I think I first started watching it. It was sort of like The Simpsons and Neighbours was the sort of thing that you'd finish your homework and that's where you'd be, and you always watch both of them back to back. So you're totally involved. You still would probably, when I was watching it as a kid, I probably wouldn't have told a lot of people that I was like following along with how Lynn is chasing someone down the street or whatever, but still loved it, and then when I came in, I hadn't watched it for a few years. Obviously, I started to again when I found out, when I started auditioning and that sort of thing, and to catch up with it. But, you sort of, it's one of those things that it would sort of be on in the background or something while someone's having dinner or you're at a friend's place or whatever, mum and dad's place particularly. So you sort of just knew characters, they're just instinctual. They're sort of there, you know what I mean? So I didn't know the ins and outs of the Willis clan, but that's like you could write a full book on all of that. So, I got there in the end.
And of course, with the character of Ned, he was talked about so much on screen before you obviously joined the cast, because obviously an iconic mother on the show, obviously Natalie Imbruglia, who have you ever actually met her yet? Because I know that she's seen you finally.
Yes, we haven't met in person. I sent her a message a little while ago on a morning show. As just a little gag, and that was sort of when she was sort of mentioning that she might come back and do all of that. So still hopeful.
Did she message you back then?
Yeah, she messaged me on Twitter, just saying like, "Oh, it's nice to see my son's doing well," or something.
Which I say, when you get that kind of interaction, it's lovely to see that even someone like Natalie Imbruglia, who has obviously not been a part of the show for a long time, but still regards the show really highly. And even she joined the kind of the Save Neighbours campaign, which was sort of running for a little while. So when you get news like a show Neighbours is ending, for you guys, how did you handle the news? Did you see it coming? What was it like for you guys?
Oh, look, we sort of had a bit of a, do you know what? We were kind of told last year that it was a possibility. And honestly, I just think that like most people all around the world just couldn't fathom it. And we're just like, it's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? It's surely, it's just going to keep going. And so it's sort of something that really, for me anyway, it just like wasn't a possibility. It was like, no way, especially now that I've just come back, and so yeah,
really hoping there'd be a few more years in there for you.
I really did. And Jackie Woodburn said that she was going to make T-shirts saying that I killed neighbours. I'm just like, thanks very much.
That's funny. Yeah, I suppose I'd sort of seen it coming as well. We'd had a few years, where it was like, oh, they're going to reduce the budgets and we're going to have to make some changes, and that, there were people leaving, and cast and crew. And so there was a bit of it, but again, you just always thought that Channel 5 was going to come through no matter what, every time it would get right down to the wire. There was like 3 or 4 times in the time that I've been there that it would come right down to the wire, and like 2 weeks before the contracts were meant to be signed, it would happen, and we'd get another couple of years,
Oh, wow.
And so I think everyone just expected it to keep doing that.
I mean, the other thing as well with the show is that, in particular, I would say this year, the show has really, I mean, you could say blown the budget. I mean, it's just looking amazing, incredible, a lot of location filming. So for you guys, when you're involved in this, does it make the job feel different, or is it kind of nice to have that change?
It was great. I don't know about you, Jacinta, but I like all that stuff made it feel like it was on the up again. Do you know what I mean? Like it was like, cool, we're back in a proper, show here. Here we go. Let's get out of the studio.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being stuck there during COVID and having a lot of restrictions, just filming restrictions and things like that, was quite stifling. Look, we were all so lucky to keep filming, but so then for them to kind of change it up a bit and add those locations and everything, you really felt like you were a part of, Melbourne, that it was like real life, and that we were, really playing these characters that were, in an actual city, rather than just this tiny little weird vortex. So it was, and it did. It started to feel kind of sparkly, and that there was like a sort of new fire about it. So I guess it does make it a bit doubly upsetting. In a way, yeah.
And also imagine as well, it's fun because you were able to bring in the whole food truck storyline, and obviously Amy kind of wanting to kind of do something different with her life. And I mean, when you found out about that must have been quite exciting and quite fun thought process.
Yeah. And when I saw my life, like huge photo on the van, that was pretty surprising. Do you remember that, Ben? I was just like,
yeah. Hey, Ned's great artwork. Okay, don't bag it.
You bagged it out, not me. Because he reckons that it doesn't have enough definition in between my teeth, and so that I just look like this chipmunk. That's bad. Anyway, it was fun. It was quite fun. Like we were around Albert Park Lake and all of that. People were coming up and trying to asking for margaritas and everything.
And of course, obviously, you know, Ned is a fantastic artist. Ben, you know, what's your art skills like?
Absolutely rubbish. But you've got to admit, Ned has his skills have grown enormously in the time that he's been on the show. Like, he started off as a tattoo artist. He then became, you know, like, he could do portraits, then he could do murals. He's done sculpting. He's done like stonework. Like, it has just grown and grown. Like, the list of things that Ned can do: nude modeling, photography. It's all there. Like, he's one talented man. Far more talented than me.
Now, obviously, the other big storyline for you guys recently was, of course, the relationship between the two of your characters, and of course, Richie Morris's character Levi. When that first got pitched to you, what were the thought processes going through your mind? Because it's not your average storyline, let's say.
No, it is not, and I think it was, you know, certainly one of the first for Australian TV. But look, it was pretty exciting, and you know, I mean, you know, it's happening. It's a relationship, you know, dynamic out there, and you know, to portray that. And look, we really did try and work so hard on it to try and make it as authentic as possible. Yeah.
My first thoughts were, will Neighbours be able to put this to air? Will it get past in the ratings? You know what I mean?
Just be cut.
Yeah, there'll be nothing left of it. But it all made it to air. I was shocked watching it.
I mean, one of the things that came out of that was the kind of the dream sequence in which Amy imagined that she was kind of dancing with both gentlemen. To film that must have been a lot of fun. I mean, had you done much dancing in the past? How did that come about?
Oh, the dancing one. All right. I thought you were talking about another scene. I did grow up dancing and stuff, so I was pretty fine. Ben, on the other hand, no, I'm joking.
Yeah, ages. No, I have a little bit of dance experience too, but it was good we had some rehearsals, which was nice, which is a rarity on that show. And we had Ben Turlin there sort of helping us out as well. It took a little while, but we got there.
No, it was good.
Of course, Eve Morey was there as now is it an intimacy coach? Is that correct? So, so how did that work? I mean, was it great to have her input?
Look, it's I think it's just, you know, a wonderful thing that's being implemented in the industry, you know, completely necessary. You know, as you know, like I've, you know, worked on numerous things for many years. So, you know, years and years ago, any kind of intimate scene, whether it's a sex scene or even, you know, a dance scene or something, none of, you know, you're not really asked like, are you okay with this, you know? So it is, you know, initially it's really good. But because Ben and I, you know, we were working together for, what was it, like a year, pretty much, so closely, you know, and because they do all these things where you're like, is it okay if I touch you? And is it okay if I, you know, and all of that sort of stuff. And it's, you know, it's wonderful because, you know, you definitely need it. And then Ben and I, you know, in the end, we're just like, yeah, it's fine. You know, we've done this 1,000 times, so like, we're cool. But yeah, so I look, I think it's brilliant, and she's great. You know, she's just so expressive, and she's just marvelous. So yeah,
because obviously that
tips as well. You know, she sort of helps you with the script as well. It's not just that. It's not just that aspect of it. Yeah.
Because I imagine as well, because it obviously happened during the sort of COVID times as well, there's those kind of whole precautions of making sure everyone is safe and you know, that the cast and the crew and that everyone's safe. And obviously Neighbours have done a fantastic job of that over the past couple of years. We are kind of getting out of the woods now, but, you know, it's still there. So for you guys working on a show that has kind of, you know, made history, being the first show back must have been quite an achievement, but you must have felt quite proud to have been a part of that.
Yeah, definitely. It was, I mean, it was such a wonderful thing that we could keep shooting through that. It was, in the early days, incredibly stressful because there was no guidebook. There's no, you know, no way okay, we're going to do it like this. We just had to do it on the fly and work it out, you know. And they had tons of meetings and they got tons of people in to sort of give safety information, and we had nurses on site, and and that changed. That was changing like daily, if not, it was by the hour. Sometimes something would change. We'd get another update, and it was like, okay, cool, now we can't touch the props, or you can't pass a prop to another actor, or So it was crazy, but it was especially when other shows were calling our producers to ask how to do it. That felt nice. Felt like we were all helping contribute to the industry, which was cool.
And obviously for you, Jacinta, you were obviously you'd gone away and then come back. So for you, you were sort of right in the thick of it as well. So I imagine for you, was that something it took a bit of getting used to, or did you feel completely safe the whole time?
Oh look, I certainly felt safe there. But obviously, there were lots of changes since I was there 20 years ago. When I walked in, because there's some crew that is still the same, and so when I walked in, the safety guy was saying, okay, so I know that you're going to know some of these people, and you can't hug them, you can't kiss them, you can't do that. And I just, I was bursting into tears. I was like, what? Anyway, and so that was very strange, seeing like Andy, the cameraman, and you're just like, hi, I haven't seen you for 20 years and not being able to, give him a big hug. But look, they did just such a marvelous job. And things were, could get a bit frustrating sometimes, the mask wearing and the this and that. But, at the end of the day, I think we were all just so grateful to be working.
And I mean, for you, Jacinta, do you remember, for you, what is your favourite storyline that you've been a part of? Over the years, you've obviously had some amazing storylines, but for you, is there one that sticks in your head as a favourite?
Oh, goodness me. No, well, there is, what?
I said so many, there's so many.
Yeah,
I always find it hard to even remember, like, this ridiculous amount, even in the short time that I've been there.
Yeah. Look, I kind of like the comedic stuff, and that's what they said to me. I sort of had ideas that I would come back and it would be very dramatic and whatever. And they were like, oh, no, you're here for the laughs, right? And so I kind of quite liked that aspect of it. And I haven't got to do a lot of comedy. So, yeah, it was fun.
And it must be great as well to kind of explore more of Amy's family. And obviously now we've got Zahra, played by the fantastic Freya Van Dyke. What's it been like working with her and kind of having some family on the show?
Having a daughter, yeah, that was weird. It's like, and her being, like, I think she just turned 18 the other day. Yeah, look, she's marvellous. And I was so lucky because I was in that audition process with her and she was my favourite. So I was glad they picked her. And yeah, I mean, it's an interesting dynamic because I don't have children in the real life. So that was, challenging for me, because I like, when you've got like a boyfriend or, like a love interest or whatever, you've sort of experienced all these things and it's very easy to sort of tap into and in your real life, and draw from those experiences. But with this, it was, it's all new to me. So, and
I mean, obviously, Amy is really struggling with parenthood, obviously with the kind of Zahra going off the rails a bit. Things are getting better, but it must be fun to kind of do those scenes where Amy's just struggling and just really doesn't know what to do.
Because I didn't know what I was doing. So, but I think it's sort of cute. Like she I think feels like she's a bit of a failure as a mother. But she's sort of, I think now sort of taking it a bit more easy on herself. But she's doing an all right job.
And of course, Ben, we must come to you. For you, I mean, so many to pick from, but is there a favourite storyline for you?
I really enjoyed probably the Scarlet stuff was really fun, and it was just so out there. Getting stabbed by a cheese knife and running through a maze and all that, just like it's sort of massive soap storyline. You're never going to get that anywhere else. So I love doing that, and then Ned's sort of PTSD in the Fight Club and all of that. I think that was probably one of the biggest storylines that I'd had while I was there, and it was also just really enjoyable because it was just so different and so out there. Yeah, I'd say that was one of them. But there's, like you said, there's so many. And, you know, a lot of it is about who you're working with, you know, and just enjoying it in the moment, in the day. Like sometimes you watch stuff back and, you know, you might love it or you might hate it, but you remember that day because you had a massive laugh in that scene, or, you know, whatever it was, or you met someone new that came in and played a role. And that stuff, yeah, you just remember for life, which is great.
I mean, we've talked about it before, but of course the other thing was the relationship with Yashvi. I mean, for a lot of people, they thought that relationship would go the distance. So when it did come to an end, I mean, as an actor, were you disappointed to see that kind of relationship come to an end?
Yeah, I mean, I'd actually had, I think, like, with the producers had sort of mentioned that was like the writers had mentioned that was sort of long term. They wanted them to be together, and so in many ways, I was quite surprised when I, you know, saw that it was ending. And like, it's always, it's a strange thing when you've worked with someone so closely for that period of time, and then they leave the show or whatever. It's a strange thing. I mean, your body doesn't know the difference between, you know, like someone you work with every day and whatnot, and a you know, like a true friend. So it's like a weird breakup, weird sort of thing that you go through, you know. Becomes very personal. So yeah, it's always like a little bit devastating when someone leaves. More so than, say, if you were, you know, someone left the office or something, I suppose. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, cool, bye George. Yeah, it's been great. But yeah, no, it was fun though. I really enjoyed working with them.
I mean, sort of the whole dynamic of working in the sort of, you know, number 30 seems like a great laugh. And obviously Jacinta, you know, your Amy is kind of living there now with Zahra.
Yeah.
To work with Ryan and just that group of people, what is that like? Because it just seems like an absolute laugh.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. I mean, I do find him laughing at me quite a lot. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but, you know, it's fun because there's a lot of respect going on there too, you know, amongst us all. And you know, really, you know, I'm pretty full on about it, like pretty pedantic about things. And, you know, as much as it's fun, we all just, I certainly want to do, you know, like the best that I possibly can. And I think, you know, when that happens and you've got those people, you know, people respect it and you're all sort of doing the same thing, you know. Like, you know, Ben and I worked really well together. We, you know, wouldn't we? We just like talk about these lines all the time and, you know, just try and make it the best that we possibly could. And that's just so satisfying, you know, to be able to do that like day in, day out. And also, like Ben was saying recently that, you know, because on other sets and stuff, you don't get to change things or to, you know what I mean? You don't really get to have a say, but because this is so fast and, you know, directors are coming in and it's all very, you know, they're like, so what are you guys up to? You know what I mean? And so you're kind of informing them about storylines and stuff. And you know, so yeah, we've sort of got this creative freedom to be able to, you know, to a certain extent, you know, make it really ours and how we want it. So it's, you know, it's satisfying, really.
Now, I wanted to ask the big question, which is, of course, I mean, I'll come to you first, Ben, but for you, what would you love to see as your character's final scene? And who would you love to see come back as the show comes to an end?
Ooh, that's a big question. Love a classic getaway, just hops in a cab and drives off. Nah, I would like to see... I'd like to see Ned happy for once. He often, I mean, he's left the show a couple of times over the years, and usually it's not for a great reason. So I suppose what I'd really like to see is, like, especially with the show ending, a happy, like, fulfilled character. I think that would make me feel good, probably help me move on too.
I mean, who would you like to see come back?
Mum. I want Natalie back. Even if it was like, you know, I'm thinking like we can do that. We can do like a Skype call or like a you know, FaceTime. Totally. If she can't leave the country, let's do like that. Would be nice.
That would be so good.
And I mean, Jacinta, same question to you. What would you love to see as Amy's final scene, and who would you love to see come back to the show?
Look, oh, golly. I guess, you know what, if they had the old, you know, Awesome Foursome back in, like if, you know, Billy and Anne and Lance came in, you know, that would be pretty fun. I don't know. I mean, I again, you know, I guess for me as well, I want Amy to be happy. You know, I think she's sort of had a lot of disasters and disastrous relationships and all that sort of stuff, you know. It'd be nice if she ended up with a nice young man.
Now, I just want to... Now, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you both. Thank you for giving up your time. Of course, for anyone watching, Neighbours is on 1:45 and 6 o'clock here on Channel 5, and you can catch up on My 5. It's really easy to do so. But yeah, thank you so much for giving up your time. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves, and yeah, come back anytime.
Okay,
Thanks.
Talk to you again. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.